What's up, everyone? My name is Jack Murphy, and I'm 18 years old, making me Gen Z. And if you were Gen Z or even Millennials, you probably thought about if you'll be able to retire at least once or twice. With all this inflation and how many years we have until retirement, we're going to need a lot of money to retire. Definitely something in the millions. So that got me thinking, how do I figure out what this number is? Because I want to be able to retire, and I want to know how much money I'm going to need in my retirement accounts to supplement that retirement so I literally don't have to work whatsoever. So that is the goal of this video: what amount of money you will need in your retirement accounts to supplement your retirement so you don't have to work whatsoever. There's a couple calculations you got to do, but if you don't want to do the math yourself, I have a couple examples I'm going to do with the video so you can just follow along, and one of the examples will probably fit your category. If you don't want to do the math yourself, I'll have two examples, one for Gen Z and one for Millennials, and this will be like the average person in each group, so you could just pick that number for the sake of this video. So the first step is calculating how much money you spend a year. You just calculate all your expenses and then the money you spend for fun or whatever, and that's just your yearly expenses. And you want to account for how much you'll be spending in retirement. So do you think you'll be spending more than you do right now in retirement or less? I would go with more to be safe, just because it's better to have more money than less money. But for the examples, I'm going to use $67,000, which according to Google is the average money a household spends, not a single person. So I'm going to assume that if you are retired, you want to be able to maintain a household. So that's the number I'm using for the example. So now for step 2, we need to calculate the inflation. So we're going to figure out what that $67,000 will be when you want to retire. So we're going to use the future value formula. And the future value formula goes future value equals present value, parentheses 1 plus inflation rate, and parentheses the power of however many years you're trying to calculate for. So here are a couple numbers you need to know. You need to know the present value. So for our examples, that is 67,000. You need to know how many years into the future you're going to look. So my first example is from a millennial. The average millennial is about 35 years old. So I'm going to say retirement age is 65. That means the average millennial has 30 more years of inflation until they're going to be retired. So that last number is 30. And you also need to know the inflation rate. It's been high the past couple of years, but generally the Fed likes to keep it between 2 and 3%. I'm going to just say 3% for the sake of this video and for the examples. So the formula for our average millennial will look like future value equals 67K, parentheses 1 plus 0.03, and parentheses to the power of 30. And that equals $162,626. So this means if you're a millennial, when you are 65, that's roughly how much money you will be spending every single year. So for retirement, you need to be able to maintain that much a year lifestyle with your investments. And now I'm going to do the calculations for the average Gen Zer. Now the average Gen Z kid is about 17, but since I'm 18, I'm just going to do 18, so it's slightly above average, but that's what I'm doing for the example. So that means we have 47 years until I'm 65 and all my other 18-year-olds are 65. So our formula would look like future value equals 67, parentheses 1 plus 0.03, and parentheses to the power of 47, and that would equal 268,796. So by the time me and my fellow 18-year-olds are 65, we're going to be spending almost $270,000 a year to maintain this lifestyle. So how do we take these numbers and find out how much money we're going to need to be able to retire? Well, that brings us to step 3. Step 3, we find out the total amount you need invested to maintain that lifestyle by using the 4% rule. Now, I've talked about the 4% rule in the past, but basically this means however much money you have invested, you should be able to take out 4% every year, and the investments will keep making money to replace that indefinitely, so you will never be actually taking money out of that initial dollar amount invested. Now, some people actually are being more conservative and going to the 3% rule, which I would consider more probably than the 4%. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to go with the classic 4%. And how you calculate this is you take that yearly amount you want to live off of and multiply that by 25. So that initial amount becomes 4%. If you want to do the 3% rule, you just multiply it by 33, and that will turn that initial yearly spending amount into 3% of the total. So if I multiply 25 for my examples, the millennial will need $4,065,650 to retire, and the other Gen Z people like myself will need $6,719,900. I know this seems crazy. I don't know where I'm going to get $6.7 million, but if you look back 30 to 50 years, it's kind of the same difference in percentages. So even though it seems impossible to get that kind of money, over time, through compound interest, we can get $4 to $7 million into our investments, and that should be enough to cover our expenses if you're the average American household. These numbers are definitely high, but there's really nothing we can do about it, so that's just kind of how it's going to be. Here's some tips I would give anyone to achieve this number. First of all, just start investing right away. Invest as much as you can while still being able to live, your life normally. But compound interest is real and is very strong. The longer you have your money in the market, the longer it can work for you and keep compounding and becoming more and more and more. If you start investing earlier, it is significantly easier to reach these goals of $4 million or $6.7 million. I would also highly suggest maxing out your Roth IRA. If you max out your Roth IRA every year since you're 18, you'll have close to $2 million, I believe, if you just get average market returns in an S&P 500 ETF or whatnot. And this is all tax-free. This is pre-tax money, so you'll be getting those profits for free and those dividends for free. This is definitely the first thing you should be doing to get that nest egg for retirement, because this is the easiest way to compound that money without taxes. And then the next steps would be like a 401k where you're getting matches from employment. And then after that, kind of just regular taxable accounts, just investing in solid companies or just S&P 500 ETFs. Time in the market is the most important factor. Even if you are an older millennial, just invest as much as you can and let that money compound so you can get that nest egg necessary to retire as soon as possible. But I will admit these numbers still did surprise me. I really didn't think it would be this high. It's definitely good to know this for future investments. But that is all for this video. Comment any questions. I'll answer all the comments. Here's some of my other videos on screen if you want to check those out. I'd really appreciate it. Drop a like. And that is all for today. Peace.